Hello, hello. Hope you are doing absolutely fantastic today. For those of you who are returning viewers, welcome back. And for those of you who've never seen my face, never seen one of my videos, my name is McKenna. I own a digital media company called Studio Westby Creatives, and today I'm making a video for the beginners and for the people who are new to shooting real estate photography. And I'm just going to share with you a couple tips. Tips about camera settings, how to actually shoot the photos, and then just a little cherry on top, a little extra info, a little extra sauce, if you will, to help you get through just about any shoot with minimal complications. So, first things first, let's paint a hypothetical picture, right? You've walked into a house or a building that you've just been hired to shoot, and you have no idea what you're doing. Where do you start? And I don't mean like where do you start in the space, I mean like how do you begin shooting these spaces? And shooting those spaces begins with your camera and your camera settings. If you're a beginning photographer, there are three controls on your camera, three settings that control light. Those are ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. When shooting real estate, the most important one is the aperture. 100% that is the most important one. Personally, for me, when it comes to aperture, I like to shoot between f7 and like f9. Usually I keep all my settings at f8, but sometimes you might want a sharper or a slightly softer image. But I've found that, f7.1 or f8 is basically the safest place you can be. I almost never change the aperture for any reason whatsoever unless I'm doing video. But if you're doing stationary photography for real estate, f7.1 or f8 is basically where you want to stay. So after you've made that setting, we go to ISO. ISO has a little bit of fluctuation to it. The one thing that we don't want to do though is have a grainy image. So usually we want to keep our ISO pretty low. Usually I find myself shooting between like 2 and 400 ISO. Depending on the lighting in the room. Sometimes I have to change it to get whatever's outside of the windows lit the correct way, but usually 2 to 400 is a very safe place to be. So lastly, shutter speed. This is the one that fluctuates the most for me personally. If you didn't already know, you should probably be shooting on a tripod. That's just going to make your life about a trillion times easier in the long run. So if you want to shoot real estate, aside from getting a camera, please, for the love of God, get a tripod. But anyway, there's really no right answer as to what the right shutter speed is. But basically, once you've set your ISO and your aperture, this is the only one you need to change to get your room well lit. It can range anywhere from, the 30-second open shutter to 1/2000th of a second. It really just depends on the time of day, where the sun is in relation to the windows, and just a couple other factors, how well the room is lit inside, how much light is outside the house or building. And then you just kind of change that and play with it depending on the specific instance that you are dealing with. So those are the camera settings that you'll want to use. Now, when it comes to taking the actual photos, what do? If you've watched any other tutorial, you know that there's a couple ways to do this. Personally, I like to take 2 exposures, one with the flash and one without. The one without the flash is really just a photo that makes everything super bright. I usually go about 2 stops up from the proper exposure, and then I properly expose everything with the flash. But if you don't have a flash, you're not completely out of luck. So the other method for shooting real estate photos is called bracketing or bracketed exposures. And for bracketed exposures, most people will take between 3 and 5 images. Basically what you do is you set your bracket from however many stops under to however many stops overexposed, and then you click the shutter down, you hold it, and it just goes, and it takes all those pictures, and in post or in your editing software, you'll merge all those pictures together and you should have a very bright image all the way down to a very dark image, which helps properly expose anything lit on the outside of the house. Because if you didn't know, the things on the outside of the house are usually going to be just a little bit brighter than the things inside the house. So there's really no right or wrong way. I think it personally comes down to preference. In my honest professional opinion, I think that a flash is just going to give you a better end result. I think it color corrects the rooms better, but it is completely possible to use bracketed exposures and get a final image that is very close or almost exactly like a if the picture was shot with a flash. So now you've got your equipment, you've got your settings, you know how you're taking the photos. What is the last thing that you need to do? If there's anything I've learned after shooting probably close to actually probably over 2,000 different properties, no matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, the one thing that I know to do every single time, based on how many people have reached out to me following a shoot, is to shoot extra pictures. I don't know what kind of situation you're going to be in. I don't know if you're contracted through a different company, if you were reached out to directly. I can almost guarantee anybody who's been shooting real estate for longer than, I don't know, a week or two will absolutely tell you just overshoot. Just overshoot. And I don't mean like drastically. Overshoot within reason. You know, I'm not saying that you need to take every single angle of every single room in the house. You'll be there hours if you try and do that. But what I mean is if, you're offering a specific package or, you feel like you've shot the main areas, shoot the main areas again. I know personally when I'm on shoots, I like to shoot from one corner and then shoot the opposite corner if I can. That's not always possible based on where furniture and, I don't know, cabinets and stuff like that are. So, those will change with depending on the situation. But when it comes to shooting the more common areas, the more prominent areas in a house, if you will, I'm talking living room, kitchen, primary bedroom, stuff like that. I always shoot an extra picture in there. So instead of taking one from the doorway and then one from the opposite corner, I'll always take about 3 different angles just in case somebody needs an extra picture for whatever reason. And then another way you can overshoot just a little bit is to take some detail shots. If you're in a nicer house that has some details that you want to show off, shoot a couple extra photos. Like sometimes you'll see a really cool piece of architecture. A lot of houses have fireplaces. Sometimes there's decks or porches. And another thing that you'll commonly see is some really nice garages. Most agents and sellers don't really care to have their garage shot. Most of the time they all look the same, cement floors, unfinished walls, unfinished ceilings. Not the greatest, but occasionally you'll have garages that are more than 3 stalls or have the epoxy floors or will be completely finished or have some sort of working area like a workbench or something in the garages. So it's always nice to get a picture of those. Just use your best judgment when you're on a shoot, what extra areas or what extra angles you can capture, because I literally cannot tell you how many times I've gotten home from a shoot and then the next day somebody's calling me asking, do you have a picture of this thing or this specific item or this thing? And I'm like, no, I do not. They didn't ask me to shoot that. Why would I shoot that? And then I'm frustrated. The client is frustrated. The people who give me the shoots are frustrated. And then I'm the one who has to pay for it by driving my happy ass all the way back out to wherever it was to shoot one photo so that everybody is appeased. So don't be like me. Don't be like me a year ago. Don't be like me when I'm tired. Overshoot and always do it. And with that being said, that's pretty much all I've got for you. Those are the 3 main things that you should know going into a real estate shoot. Your settings, how you actually want to take the photos, and how to keep everybody happy. So, with that being said, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, concerns, or things that you want to talk about, leave me a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this, you want to see what crazy adventures I get up to in the future, because there will be, some crazy adventures in the future. Or if you just want to see more of my face, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.